Hi, welcome to another session of our podcast series. And today I have a very interesting guest with me. Before I get into the details like who is talking with us, I just want to give you some overview. Like math is now close to a year old. We are almost like 10 months over since our inception. T-Hub is 8 years old and we are working relentlessly day in, day out to bring the startup ecosystem together. But when we are building great startups, when we are supporting great startups, there is one sector of corporates, the GCCs and the SMEs, which play a significant role in the success of these startups. Because these companies or the big organization not just gives marketplace opportunity, not just give market access, not just gives the pilots, the funding and the support, they play a role of a mentor, the guiding power for all these startups. And there today we have someone who heads a body called HYSEA, which is like a 3-decade-old body based out of Hyderabad, which is bringing all the corporates, all the GCCs and everyone together under one umbrella. And no doubt that they are doing phenomenal job over the years and we are seeing the growth, and very soon probably Hyderabad will lead this journey in terms of the city which attracts and which hosts the largest number of GCCs and corporates within India. With that, I would just like to go to Prashanth. Prashanth, welcome to this discussion. And if I have to talk about Prashanth a little bit, Prashanth has been a corporate leader for more than 2 decades. He has worked with big giants like Cognizant and FirstSource, and he has led them at C-suite level. And now he is the president of HYSEA, where he has taken the charge of bringing all the corporates, all the GCCs and the SME ecosystem under one roof. So welcome Prashanth to this discussion. I'm all excited and hope to have a great conversation and learning from you.
Thank you, Rahul. Glad to be here as well.
Great. So Prashanth, now since we have you here and we just want to get the maximum out of this conversation, and we just want this conversation as a seeding point to many more good things that we do in coming times. So Prashanth, like if you can give our audience and just tell us a brief like what HYSEA is doing right now, what is their vision? I think many of us know about HYSEA. It's been there for ages now, but if what is your perspective as a new president of HYSEA, as a new leader, where you see its vision, its focus is, and what are your thoughts to take it to the next level?
Thank you, Rahul. It's great that Matt's been a 10-month-old baby and doing phenomenally well as part of the larger T-Hub ecosystem. From an HYSEA standpoint, we've been in existence for over 3 decades. Initially started to sort of create infrastructure and a policy framework to attract the service industry in the erstwhile Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad in specific, and then expanding more broad-based within Andhra Pradesh. But it's morphed to be, as the bifurcation of state happened, we're more focused on Telangana and Hyderabad as much. I think the agenda has pretty much been rock solid since the time we've set up. Obviously, there have been different hype cycles in technology, which have created enormous disruption. So we've morphed ourselves to navigate those shifts as we go along. But fundamentally, I think it is to make Hyderabad and Telangana the preferred destination of choice for any company that wants to set up a business in India, right? And it could be across services organizations, capability centers, product companies, engineering centers, innovation centers, and everything that across the value chain that we're talking today about, right? So that's been the focus. So obviously, we're continuing that journey. We want to be as inclusive as possible to all the constituents of our members. We're here for the members and what work we can do and working with the government closely to make it happen. So our focus is across IT services organizations, global capability centers, product organizations, SMEs that you spoke about. We also have a lot of associate members to create an inclusive environment, including, HR organizations, recruitment organizations. We are covering organizations in the infrastructure development space that are associate members, universities and colleges which are our associate members. So we can work along with all of them to create an inclusive environment. As it comes to what is the focus now among everything else? Clearly, I think AI has been in existence for so many years. AI and ML has been the foundation block for a bunch of industry on a period of time. But with the invention of generative AI, I think and with the cloud compute advancement that's happened, I think there's a lot happening on how AI can be implemented at scale in the businesses, right? So as it presents ourselves, our current focus is to sort of look at all the futuristic technologies and how we can create skilling of population both within the existing organizations as well as in the campuses so that they can be more job ready with a shift in the landscape that's happening. That's a big priority for us from a business standpoint. Likewise, I think historically, as a country and as a state and as all of us, a focus was employment. But as it goes today, a lot of focus on entrepreneurship as well. One of the key priorities for us is to work along with industry bodies, association, the likes of THUB, the likes of YAL, and other incubation hubs to see how we can promote entrepreneurship within the state and within Hyderabad and how we can help that ecosystem. That's an important part of our agenda that we're sort of driving. Ethics and sustainability are big norms that are happening today. So we are focused a lot on figuring out how we can collaborate with the industry, bringing thought leadership, collaborate on programs to sort of help create that environment on sustainability and stuff. So we're working with some of the institutions and with the government to create a sustainability council through which we can sort of make Telangana and Hyderabad the preferred sustainable choice location. We actually implemented policies and frameworks to drive business outcomes that are there from a business standpoint. Right? Not all organizations that we sort of work with, which are our members, have the same level of exposure. For example, SMEs, right? They don't have the same investment capabilities of what a large GCC or what a large IT services company or a product engineering company can actually boast of, right? So one of our priorities is to sort of see how we can sort of help create an exchange by which we can transfer knowledge of what are the best practices being deployed in the large companies, which the SME groups can sort of adopt, so that they can also innovate and they can also understand the best practices across the value chain, right from sales to execution to innovation, so that they can actually succeed in their journeys and their maps. We are also working with the government to create a framework through which we can create a favorable SME policy by which these companies can have access to various projects and programs that are being offered so that they can make the best use of that from a business standpoint, right? So those are some of the key themes that we're working with. But one large thing, I think all of us have a vision, and we just concluded an event about 3 weeks back, is how do all the associations in Hyderabad come together and create a common minimum program through which we can focus on 4 of our initiatives, which we can drive significant value. When it comes to, for example, entrepreneurship, with VHub focusing on women entrepreneurship, we are looking at how we can partner with them, more so in rural communities and areas, so that not only can we divert some of our CSR funding to drive those events, but also work with our member companies to create an exchange through which we are able to market and sell products made in remote areas as corporate gifting standards that are there in the business. So, the whole world is about how do we sort of work together as a community to create the best value and create this as a large scale, actually drive secular development in the state and just not on one area or the other for a business perspective. That's our charter at a broad level.
Great, wonderful. So, if can you excite us with some numbers, like how many people or how many bodies are there with HYSEA today, and how many organizations are part of your in this association?
So, HYSEA covers about 90% of the workforce
within Telangana.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We have several initiatives here that we're working with, and it covers various companies that I spoke about across the segment of the business.
Right.
As you know, we are close to 950,000 employee base, which are directly employed in the ITS industry.
Wow.
In Hyderabad and Telangana. And indirect employment is almost 3 times of what the direct employment is to the support structure that's there. So that's a big part of what we're thinking from a business standpoint. So clearly, that's the lay of the land from a number standpoint. Also, I think what we are doing purely from a number standpoint is to sort of see how we can drive some initiatives at scale, and I'll qualify a little bit about this. So our vision from skilling is that at least we reach out to 10,000 future graduates and skill them at the intersection of future technologies so that they are available for deployment over the next couple of years. That's a mandate that we have taken. We want to work on programs where we create faculty immersion to provide about 500 faculty across all colleges in the state of Telangana, where they are able to understand the future skills in the marketplace. How do the schools get deployed? How do you move from uh, graduation and knowledge to actually working in corporates? And what does it mean and how does the transition happen? So we want to cover about 500 faculty to immersion program. So they're able to come spend time with us to understand how this whole landscape is working. And they actually they spend a couple of days in every corporate to understand how people are trained, skilled, deployed, what sort of projects they run. So when we run these initiatives, they're able to work along with them to make them successful and navigate that shift, which wasn't there in the past. Right? So we're working closely with Task on this. So there's some of the couple of things that we're doing, and our first cohort for faculty immersion is planned is up for graduation, and we're doing a graduation event in the month of September, and we want to scale it up to about 500 people eventually.
That's wonderful. So, if I have to just take one piece out of it, like 1 million workforce in Hyderabad, and they are employed by the companies which are under HYSEA. That's an exciting number. And so now coming back to the startups, what we operate in, right? So although we started in support from DST, Government of India and Government of Telangana within T-Hub, but we do have a pan-India focus, and we are focusing on pan-India, and 70% or 60% of the startups that work with us are coming outside Telangana. So that kind of ecosystem that we were able to build in last couple of months. Now the thing is that when we talk about startups and then there is corporate, right? These two parties should go hand in hand, because then only something good for the society, something good for innovation, something good for AI can happen or is possible. So what is your thought, and if I have to crystallize that, what all different initiatives ICI is thinking to engage startups within their corporate ecosystem, and what all benefits they can extend to them. So if you can share a few insights around that, that will be really exciting to hear.
The beauty of startups is they're very hungry.
Right.
No boundaries. They like to sort of try things out.
Right.
And they have no constraints apart from funding to a certain extent and mentoring and stuff, right? But a lot of times large organizations struggle with keeping up with innovation speed and velocity, which I think is important. Not everything need to be bought inside. You can also buy services from outside. So I think one role that we envisage ourselves to play, and which we are working with for the last couple of years, and we want to expand it a lot more as it goes along, is how do we externalize industry problems to various incubation networks so that the startups get access to business problems that the corporates are facing, which they can find eventually solutions to sort of solve those problems, right? Now, we've also run structured events like Catalyst in the past, which was precisely doing this sort of a thing where we're trying to get startups engaged, a curated bunch of startups, work with a bunch of industry segments. If you pick life sciences, for example, how do some of the life sciences and the healthcare professionals come together and they expose their problem statements, that then we can potentially see a match which they can work together to solve some of the issues, right? That's one area where we think there is value. It can either be done as specific industries like banking, healthcare, or it could be done as horizontal. You're solving learning problems across the organization, or you're solving customer experience challenges across the organization, or client onboarding and activities across the organization. How do you sort of work on horizontals and verticals, right? Which I think is where the puck is sort of moving, right? And I think we want to double dip on this, and we want to actually create cohorts, not just to structured programs, but work with the likes of y'all, with HYSEA, with IIIT, and a bunch of others to sort of make sure that we are actually doing some speed dating sessions so that people can come with their problems, and there's a bunch of creative startups can actually talk to them and pitch their ideas, and hopefully there'll be matches.
Right.
That we think that we can work together and facilitate some of these conversations going forward, right? That's one element. The second element, I think, is a lot of new companies or existing leaders from companies come visiting, and they're looking at innovation opportunities, specifically with AI and everything else that's happening in the system.
Right.
So I think one of it is also create awareness of the vibrant innovation ecosystem that's there, and the underlying startups that are being funneled through that, even on these customer visits that happen either in the services company or senior leaders who are coming from the transformation and innovation organization in their capability centers here, so that they can come and visit some of these incubation hubs. So they get to see what's happening across. So that creates awareness in terms of India, Telangana, Hyderabad can be used as a large innovation ecosystem,
Right.
and just not as a production ecosystem that they used to. Right. That's another way we want to sort of work outside of just externalizing business problems to sort of create that awareness. So that's important when organizations want to bet with startups in a particular place, so that they at least have an appreciation of the support infrastructure around that that's sort of driving this.
Right.
The third thing that we're working closely is we're also working with all the seed and startup ecosystems and venture capital ecosystems who are funding some of these startups. One is to sort of include them
Right.
more inclusively in providing access, like we spoke about. Two is also how do we sort of drive awareness within the leadership and the larger segment of the Hyderabad tech industry ecosystem on how to start investing in some of these startups.
Wow.
Startups are not just looking at problems,
Right.
but they're also looking at funding to a certain extent,
Correct.
and how somebody can be both a mentor and somebody who can also provide. So
Put
we're
in
also
money,
thinking
yeah.
through how, investing in this sort of asset class
Right.
is not a bad investment, and what are some guardrails, what are some concepts that people need to think through before they make those investments, right? So almost like a masterclass series
Wonderful.
to create awareness within the larger IT ecosystem
Right.
on what are the opportunities of investment. That's how we're thinking the entire landscape, right?
That's
A
pretty
long
exciting.
answer for your, for your short
No, that's
question.
pretty exciting. So, in a nutshell, like there are a lot of things that you are planning. So, there are some sessions. There are also you're bringing the ecosystem so that the startups can get beyond mentorship, problem statements, and can also get into the funding. And I think bodies like you play a very pivotal role there, because corporates also need that confidence that they go through a right channel to make those decisions, right? So I think that's a phenomenal and a lot of work that HYSEA is doing under your leadership. Now, since we have you here, and if we move, we talk to Prashanth, the CEO of First Source, and we take you back in that time journey, couple of years, and we would like to understand few thoughts or few suggestions for our startups. I have been a startup entrepreneur for almost like a decade, and and this is a common thing that every startup entrepreneur is facing today, that we all want to go to corporate, we all want business from them, we all want definitely funding from them, but first thing is that at least the business opportunity is something that all the entrepreneurs want. And the major challenge there is that access. Right now, the bodies like us, yours, definitely these bodies help them to get the access. But even after the access, the second challenge is that how to get the confidence of the people on the other side. So what we see the problems today is that whenever the startup goes, they come back to me and they always say that, Rahul, like they are not that confident that if we will survive for next 2 years or 3 years. If we are selling them enterprise solution which is like license based, then the guys on the other side, they were asking like, there is no guarantee you will be there for next 2 years, 3 years. I say that that's a very valid question from their side, and I can relate from the entrepreneur side also, like where this question is coming. Then there are other challenges comes, like how we test the data privacy, and how secure is your data, how big is your compliance team. Now these things don't exist in the startup probably at the initial years, right? There is no compliance team. The CEO himself is probably the compliance manager or compliance leader, right? So when this kind of problems are coming, and so if a startup is coming to a leader like you and pitching his idea, you are convinced on the idea, but what suggestion you would like to make to an entrepreneur, how he should present his picture or make his pitch, so that the people on the other side are much more comfortable and confident to accept them or to give them this opportunity?
Fair enough. So I think very, very important question that you're raising. And, one thing that I would say is, if we're going through a significant change in the way, organizations are going to reshape themselves
Right.
over the next several years.
Right.
And it's been like that with every technology hype cycle, right? And Some will last for long, some won't last for long. But I
Absolutely.
think clearly some of this change is there here to stay going forward. So everybody's frantically trying to look at how to ride this technology wave and see how they can create either better customer experiences, generate higher revenue for themselves, or reduce their cost of business, or improve their risk profile of their business that they're working with. Everybody's working on these ideas
Right.
across the different value chain of the customer segments, right? So I think most organizations are as much trying to create their own internal innovation teams, as well as create a bunch of external networks that they can tap into for
Right.
solving some specific business areas. Some of them could be very early stage startups, some of them could be more seasoned startups who are going through
Right.
different stages of funding. But I think what they're looking for is an idea
Okay.
and some solution that they can bring to bear, which will solve the current pain points that are there.
Okay.
Because your probability of solving an issue is as good or lower than solving through an external party who has a zeal to sort of make a difference in that space, because their only focus is figuring out
that,
the problem and solving those issues. So firstly, it's that, right?
Okay.
Do you have the right solution?
Right.
Do you have
Absolutely.
focus on the right area?
Right.
That will make an impact. I think that evaluation is constantly happening, and the spirit of experimentation exists internally and externally.
Absolutely.
So if you have a good solution, you will get a seat on the table to have a chat to figure out
So you've crossed the first level.
first level of the filter.
The idea should match with the requirement.
100%, 100%
Right.
the requirement,
Okay.
right? That's the first filtration criteria.
Right.
The second criteria, I think, from their standpoint, is about have you done it somewhere else?
Right.
Have you tried somebody else where it's worked? Right. That's a
Right.
usual
Correct.
checklist that you have today. And
Right.
sometimes a strong idea make you a first adapter as well, because you're trying several things. I've tried in my own internal ecosystem for 4 or 5 times of solving a business problem. If I've not solved it for whatever reasons, then there's no risk for me to trying to solve it with somebody else who I think has a promise to solve it. So that's the second area. Easy access comes through when not solve business problem, which is there, which we think can be addressed, and there's somebody who comes with a solution. Then we sort of figure that out and sort of address that in terms of how things are. I was talking to somebody in a large bank, and their focus was on risk underwriting for the wholesale business. And in RM, he needed to capture thousands of documents and create a summary report for the credit manager to look at, to assess and provide credit. With the invent of GenAI now, there are internal solutions as well as external products which are able to summarize this in a much more concise manner, and the quality of the inference from there is so great that a credit decision manager is now feeling more comfortable trying to use that extract to make a decision that much more, right? It's a learning phase, things move on. But if you are in that niche that you're playing on solving a bespoke vertical problem, there is enough appetite, I think, to try new solutions in the marketplace that is there. In fact, if you read articles, a significant portion of time of CX in all organizations is now looking at the ecosystem of innovation happening outside, having conversations with them to see which parts of this ecosystem can be solved through external partners that are bringing to bear. So that's the second piece I would say, right? So if you are in the right area and you have some proven track record of doing something in the past, it's easy, but also taking it head on to say, tell me a problem that you're not able to solve that I can solve. If you are in that space, it's more easy to get acceptability from a business problem standpoint.
Right.
That's the second wave, I would say. The third thing, I think the concerns on data and stuff exist, but if you're focused on solution stacks and innovative in terms of, can we create a sandbox of data on which we can prove a solution?
Right.
Then the acceptability is that much more higher, right?
Right.
Rather than trying to do it on production environments. So once a solution is proven, then you can take it in-house with all the security structures and systems that exist. And most organizations are willing to sort of use their prowess to sort of help you to get more compliant from that standpoint, right? So the key is getting the access to the data set, which is on an environment which is outside, external, not on the production environment. You're able to prove what your capabilities are on that set. Right. Albeit it is not an end-to-end solution because you're not fully integrated with all the systems. But if a common minimum initiative can be built around that, which we think can solve 80% of the problems, then I think you can then figuring out how to get it over the wall into the environment, which I think can solve the problems, right? So it is a concern widely, and it's more concern in some areas than the others, which are highly restricted environments. But no algorithm, for example, in the AI space can be as effective unless they have training data.
Correct,
And the
absolutely.
training data comes through going through several
Iterations and
several
time periods, several
iterations
data
and
sets, everything.
sometimes million documents that need to go through the whole population to train all the situations and
Right,
nuances.
absolutely.
So I think that can also be done in a training environment that is existing in testing environment that exists in firms, right? That you could leverage, albeit it may not be the universal set. And what some of the organizations are doing to solve some of this is they're going into agencies or learning or who hold some data centrally, and they're able to tap into them and create some basic training models, right, which can exist so that you're not going in blank into a company. You have a certain set of documents which has already been trained, you then
Train,
take to an
right.
organization to work through it. So that I think is hopefully answered
Yeah, yeah,
part
yeah,
of your question.
absolutely.
If
You
not,
covered like almost like the entire spectrum, more or less. But I think that seeds a thought that how an entrepreneur can approach and what all things he should be cognizant about when going for a corporate pitch. But coming back to like another topic today, we are all gearing up for AI Summit. AI Summit is one of the greatest initiatives by government of Telangana, and definitely it is going to put us in a different Telangana and Hyderabad in a different position or a pedestal after this event. That is what the expectation that all of us are having. Now, you being the leader of HYSEA, you being an individual who is living in Hyderabad in the tech industry, you being a tech leader, what is your expectation and how are you looking at Global AI Summit that is conducted and hosted by Government of Telangana, in which HYSEA is also playing a major role, math is playing a major role. But what is that you are expecting that after this event, how it should impact or affect the ecosystem, and how what all things should happen and what all responsibilities different bodies should take up. So your take on this and what are the after effects of, I will too early to talk about, but still will be more
yeah,
excited to understand on those lines your thoughts.
eventually we're on a journey.
Right,
We're on a journey to be known for AI,
right,
known to be the innovation capital eventually
correct. The
of
AI
India
capital.
and maybe of the world. Why not?
Yes,
I think we've said that this is the decade for AI in the state of Telangana and Hyderabad in specific. I think to realize this vision, we're on a journey, and I think this is another impetus to boost, how people perceive and how we can actually double dip and show the seriousness of why we want to drive Telangana as a destination of choice for AI, right? And all of us are part of this journey for the last several years. It's not like AI is new, like I mentioned, right? Things have been going on, but it's now getting more democratized, and I think people are looking at it very differently. In my view, it is a string of pearls and how it's all getting stitched together to drive this. I think what's going to happen through the AI summit is it's going to give the much needed boost in terms of how people perceive
Hyderabad.
our Hyderabad and Telangana in terms of what they're doing.
Correct.
This coupled with the fact that there's a great, vibrant entrepreneurship ecosystem that's being created, both from venture capitals, from associations like you, Math AI, from TIA, from all the incubators in that space. Uh, I think there's a lot of focus on driving meaningful AI startup culture that
Right.
is embedded into the state that we're trying to drive now, right? There's enough money chasing that whole landscape, and there's enough mentoring being provided, enough of platforms and access that's being created. That's the second piece, right? Recognition that we need to treat if this is going to be one of our biggest priority. I think we need to create a framework by which this succeeds. So the whole AI university that's being planned
Right.
is all about showing a seriousness in terms of how we are getting the best in breed in AI to set
Absolutely.
up skilling and education and knowledge ecosystem within the state. So that there is investment and there is something backing that whole landscape that is there. Fourth, I think, is how do associations like some of the industry associations and corporates actually can work with academia
Right.
to create some of these modules within the curricula. So when people are actually graduating, irrespective of which discipline that they are graduating in. They understand the confluence of the business area and the AI and how it's going to change the business areas, right, from a business outcome standpoint. So there's a lot of focus happening on skilling with the specific domain in mind,
Right.
so that people are able to sort of navigate the shift that's happening from a business standpoint. Right?
Skilling
So,
is one of the major requirement or gap within AI today.
Totally.
Right. Right.
I think all of us struggle sometimes to get the right skill, but I think there's an understanding and everybody's want to make an effort to get there
Right.
at a cohort level, right? So that's brilliant from what I think. So these are four things I think which are all pegged together, which I think will make a difference to AI adoption in the state. And my vision to the government was we should take one of our labs here and make it the top 10 labs for AI
Absolutely.
in the world,
Correct.
right? So that's the focus, right? Once we sort of build that whole ecosystem around, I think that provides startups, that provides industry, that provides research, that provides the entire value chain to actually create something meaningful from a business standpoint, right? So that's how we're thinking through this as one of the key elements of the journey that the state is on to make this an AI powerhouse from a business standpoint, right? That's one dimension. Just the summit, I think the summit's been beautifully created. And we've been working on a few things, Rahul, but more fundamentally, you have renowned speakers coming in talking about, how do they identify an idea, how do they
Right.
take it to fruition, what business problems that they're trying to solve, what is ethical AI, how do you sort of make sure AI for good, how are industries adopting AI use cases, getting a bunch of startup excited on through the hackathon exercise and bring them on board, running the whole idea around Shark Tank and how that can come together as we look at ideas and stuff. I think there's a lot that's happening where there's something for everybody, right from corporates to students to investors to incubators to everybody there.
For all the stakeholders.
For all the stakeholders. So,
Right.
and including academia, right? So how
Absolutely.
we can sort of leverage this and make this the best place for us from a business standpoint. So I think I'm very excited that everybody has something in it, and the beauty is that everybody is coming together to
Absolutely.
make this a grand success, right? And the government is very, very keen that this is the journey that they want to take, and we want to make this the AI capital of India for sure.
Perfect.
So
Absolutely.
I think I see a lot of value coming into this whole session.
We are all excited. So I think you have summed it up very well, like covering all the stakeholders, the entire ecosystem, bringing them all under one roof, and it's a great initiative by the government. Now it's also our responsibility after the event that how we take it forward and how we make the real on-ground impact by the different bodies, by different stakeholders, and what all different things we can achieve. But I think we are on the right track, and it's a very exciting time to be in Hyderabad if you are working in AI. And I will just take this as an opportunity to invite all the great startups to come to Hyderabad and join us. So, but before we end up, like any closing note that you would like to, or any message that you want to give it to the startup ecosystem, corporate ecosystem, and all the participants in AI Summit. So, any 1 minute closing note from Prashanth.
Hyderabad and Telangana is going to be the AI destination for the future. Some of you are already on that path. I think I would suggest all of you all to participate in all the events leading to the AI Summit,
Right.
and actively engage on the AI Summit as things go on, and then use that opportunity to engage post the summit as well, because there'll be multiple threads that are going to open up, which are going to be leveraged to drive various things from taking your ideas to fruition finally, which is extremely important. So I'm very excited with what's happening here. So I would encourage everybody to come participate in this event, and then continue the momentum going forward so we can make this a grand success. So my view is for all the people who are going to participate in the hackathon, please come on. There's great stuff that's there. I think we're going to solve some of those greatest business problems. I think there's a great annual awards session that's planned on the 29th. Participate in that. One of it is a mentor launch where we are trying to get access to mentors, investors, for them to talk to the startup ecosystem so that they can pitch their ideas, and those ideas can then be leveraged so that they can figure out where they can sort of initiate some work. That's one piece I think that's very exciting. Other piece I think also exciting is curating a bunch of folks that we are bringing together from the industry to talk about enterprise adoption of AI and how some of these are being done and what value can be delivered. So it's a great opportunity for people to know how large scale and some of the niche companies are actually adopting AI at an enterprise level, and how should somebody think about adoption cycles and how that can be leveraged to drive growth. So both these sessions are happening in the AI Summit. So I think it's a great opportunity for everybody to listen in, participate, and understand how and make the best use of it.
So thank you, Prashant. And with that, like if I have to say something, I would like to invite like all the startups, all the ecosystem partners to come to Hyderabad, participate in this Global AI Summit. And with this discussion, I also want to pass one message that with HYSEA coming on board with math, and we are very confident that for all the startups who are joining our programs, we will be able to give them lot of and extensive market access opportunities and opportunities to present themselves in front of corporate, definitely with help from HYSEA. And that is what makes math more exciting than ever. So thanks for your time. Thank you, Prashant, for taking out the time for today. And thanks everyone.
Thank you, Rahul.